Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Lonely Liberal Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Zankin, and I'm so happy to have you on this late evening Sunday or maybe early Monday morning. We got a great show for you today. Rick and I are going to go through a whole heck of a lot of news. I mean, you can tell. Look at the episode length. Jesus, this is a long one. We're going to be talking about Iran, the Ken Paxton win in Texas, the gerrymandering, UFOs, a culture corner about steroids, Pam Bondi going to testify, gerrymandering stuff, government saying that they want NDAs for all federal workers, and so much more. I'm really happy to have you here, like I just said, but make me even happier by liking and subscribing and reviewing and all that stuff, sharing the show with people. All of that is good things. Also, if you are listening on YouTube right now, you'll be able to see that there is no video. That's because there was a glitch, so my bad. Then we'll be back to normal videos next week, but that is why you are just seeing a static image of something, which I will figure out sooner than later. But anyway, enough grab ass, as they say. Without further ado, let's get to it. Alrighty, and we are back with Rick. Rick, what's up, dude?
Hey, not much. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. My power was out randomly from like 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. today because of tree going down in the neighborhood. It was only like 3 houses.
You've had a lot of trees go down in that house, though. I feel like those trees are very frail.
Yeah, we've had a couple instances through the years.
You just had trees going left and right. Well, it's funny because if I grew up in that house, I would be way more scared of trees falling on me than I am currently because I've never had a tree fall anywhere near me before. But you've had like 6 or 7, like just tumble near your house.
Oh yeah, and they always fall towards my bedroom window. It's always in the same direction.
It's awful. Yeah, you've had cars crushed, like things destroyed. It's a real Wild West over there. I don't know what happened. Why are they so weak over there? Anyway, speaking of nature, did you hear the meteor hit the other day? Did you hear about that?
I did hear about it. I think I was driving back from Boston when it happened. I didn't hear it when it happened, though. Did you?
No, I was in a diner, and I was just hearing ladies yell about, I need a 4-wheeler on a tooth. So I was just listening to that. But I didn't hear it, but I got text. And so, yeah, apparently a meteor exploded in the atmosphere, and it was heard throughout 3 states.
Yeah, that's wild.
It does sound like the beginning of a Godzilla movie, too. What was that? I think it was a meteor. Was it an earthquake? I don't know. And then, next day, rah, it comes out, starts taking people out.
Who was it? Who was the presidential candidate? Was it Newt Gingrich that said we needed like a space force or something like that? Well, or it was Trump too, right?
It was Trump. Well, and it exists. The Space Force is a thing now.
Yeah.
And then Steve Carell made a whole sitcom about it.
Right. Yeah, that was first term.
Yeah, that feels like, they have a Space Force now. That's a thing that exists. I think it's part of the Air Force, but it's funny. I don't think they go to space very often. I think they're more of a satellite group.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was crazy. They should have maybe been a warning. Oh, by the way, a massive meteor is going to explode in the Earth's atmosphere around in your state. Who's monitoring that? Is it the Space Force? Is that who I should be yelling at?
Yeah, I guess so.
I feel like Elon's responsible.
Yeah, the local Facebook resonance groups were just blowing up with conspiracy theory.
Oh my God.
What it was. Yeah, just people throwing things out there.
Well, and that's one of those things too. If that had happened in 1000 BC, they would be like, oh, God just struck us down. I shouldn't have ate fish on a Friday. It's him yelling at me. That's exactly what it would have been.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we're going to get to it today. I forget if it's on our list, but there was some UFO news this past week.
And now official U.S. government alien site. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
If we get to it. Part of our riveting week. I mean, it's an interesting week of news. I mean, it's funny. Whenever there's Iran news, what does it say about our society that feels like played out? The fact that the U.S. is currently at war. Every week, frankly, we should lead with the war that the U.S. is currently fighting.
And at one point, it's like, oh my God, Iran already? We get like comments, oh, more Iran? I'm like, yeah, it's war. It's just so funny that the attention span is just so short that active war now gets boring after a couple of weeks. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so true. And I feel like it wasn't like that at all in Afghanistan and Iraq because the Bush administration really tried to sell it to Americans, whereas Trump really didn't give much effort into convincing people this was necessary. It just
No.
happened. So I think that's like, people are just like, should we be caring about this at all?
Yeah. And it's crazy because there's been this will he, won't he in terms of extending the ceasefire and stuff like that. But the big deal is that Trump has to agree, which is so funny, by the way, that Trump is the bottleneck for any agreement at all. Is that normally the case? I mean, I guess the president is technically the commander in chief, so maybe that's normal, but seems unfortunate because he could change his mind like he has been at any hour of the night. It could be rattled off with a Bruce Springsteen attack, could fire him up, and then God knows what happens.
Yeah, and his red line that him and Vance and everyone is saying now, obviously, is the strait has to be open.
Yeah.
Like that's what they're making this whole war be about right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just unbelievable because it was open 3 months ago before they started the war.
It's never not been open other than this because of this war.
Right. We closed it.
It reminds me of when the Trump administration was taking victory laps when they removed their own tariffs. When they were like, the tariffs started at 0, then they went up to 10, and now they're back at 0. That's Trump, baby. And you're like, you brought them to 10.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
You can't take a victory lap for not doing the thing that you've been doing. If a bully goes, look at how I don't bully anymore.
Right.
Like, so good. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. In his rage, he started lashing out against Oman and saying that Oman, he was going to blow up, which, of course, just now people say, like, rolls off the front top. You know what I mean? Just rolls off the back now when he says he's going to blow up another country. And people may not remember, Oman was the one that was handling the peace negotiations before this war and was the one that had said Iran had agreed to a very, very favorable deal. And they thought that the agreement was going to be signed any second. So maybe he doesn't like that Oman is too honest, which is crazy, but could be the case.
Yeah, I mean, why not pick a fight with one of the most important mediators? He's picking a fight with everyone else that could possibly help us. So why not continue? The interesting update, it wasn't just his threat that, we'll blow up Oman too if they get in the way of opening up the strait. It's also the fact that the Treasury Secretary weighed in with a threat of his own, saying, basically, Oman better watch out because if they get in the way of free commerce, we're going to have to respond directly. Like, why is the Treasury Secretary throwing out threats in the middle of a war, in the middle of a fragile negotiation process?
It's so, so, so crazy. And it does kind of feel like Scott Bessent is their favorite to trot out. He seems to be the one that they think is the most reasonable and digestible, because I feel like he's been the one that they trotted out basically whenever something goes wrong. They brought him out for Venezuela. They brought him out with the tariffs. They brought him out with Liberation Day. They're bringing him out for Iran war now. He's on tour. They really like him. And I guess if you're comparing him against, what a crop, Pete Hegseth.
RFK and Pete Hegseth.
Well, and Tulsi's gone. They're all gone. Anyone who can maybe even say a coherent sentence is gone. So I guess
Right.
It's him.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny with him.
Yeah, he's low on the totem pole in terms of the mainstream media coverage of this administration, I feel like, because you have Hegseth and Vance and RFK. I mean, these are like some of the most attention-seeking, unique cabinet members we've ever seen. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like Bessent kind of is okay with, like, he's being portrayed as, like, the adult in the room, even though he's really just as bad as the rest of them.
And also, I mean, yeah, Lutnick, Epstein connections, had to testify.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been on the testify about Epstein list, that's never a good sign.
Right.
Well, Lutnick famously, remember, he said, like, I have never been there, and then I took a vacation to his island with my children. And then,
Right.
he's like, yeah, anyway, I don't know.
Was he the one who was like, at one point, my door, I was living
Steps away.
5 steps away from him or something?
I took 5 steps back into my house to Epstein. And he's also someone, a lot of trades going on behind the scenes. He's got a lot of suspicion around him, Mr. Lutnick. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. It's funny with Oman because it's similar with everything where you don't know what to take serious. Trump has really done a great job of really messing people's brains up in terms of what should we take serious or not. And it's funny because literally never before would this not be serious. Like just being like, I'll blow up Oman. The fact that that isn't even a big news story shows that it's just he has so little weight with his words. It's crazy.
Right. And what that does is it gives all of his supporters the ability to not defend anything that they don't want to defend.
Exactly.
Which I've definitely encountered talking to people that are still supporting Trump. They'll say we need to close the border and, I support strict immigration. But like, I have not met someone that will defend a majority everything Trump does wholeheartedly. What they'll say for the worst things that they don't want to defend is Trump was obviously kidding or he was bargaining from coming at an extreme standpoint type of thing.
100%. Well, and this is it's actually a side topic, but I think it's worth talking about in the sense that, like, we get one of the most amazing things about this podcast is specifically on YouTube, whatever the algorithm picks up a little bit, it's always Republicans and conservatives. And we have some wonderful people fighting the good fight. I'm looking at you, GG Blaster. He's always in there. I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe he, she. I don't know who they are, but they're always fighting the good fight, and I love them. But that's usually the audience. And what's so funny is we get some version of, I'm right middle, and obviously Trump's a crazy person, but you guys go too hard because you call him a fascist or you call him an X or Y. Like, give me a break. You'll never get the middle. And it's this separation of normal Republican and Trump. And I don't think those things should really be separated anymore. I could have agreed after the first term, but after you vote for the dude again, and he's absolutely going scorched earth on everyone, I appreciate that they now don't like Trump, and that's better than liking him still, I guess. But I don't understand, I guess, why they aren't more... all the people who they would consider normal Republicans, all the rest of them, the federal level Republicans, all support this blindly and wholeheartedly. So what's the difference? Like, I don't...
Right.
So I don't know. What do you think about this? Because
right, like if let's say you describe yourself as a centrist who usually votes Republican.
Yeah.
And has voted for Trump in the past few elections, but you don't like a lot of what he's doing. If you're still willing to vote for him and still going to vote for JD Vance or whoever it is in 2028, and you're going to vote for all the lower candidates that are Trump loyalists carrying out every part of his platform, what really is the difference? Yes, you get to say on the internet, well, I have extremely nuanced views about all these issues. Of course, I don't think ICE should be rounding up American citizens. Of course, I don't think we should be invading Venezuela and Iran on a whim. Like all that stuff. How much does that matter when in the end, every Republican you vote for is a MAGA loyalist that's carrying out all this stuff you disagree with?
Without a doubt. And that's what I don't understand. And one of the other things that I think is so interesting is we've talked about it at length, so I don't have to relitigate it. Of when we say Trump is acting like a fascist or is a fascist, people go, you're saying Trump is Hitler, you're calling me a Nazi, you're calling me this, that, whatever. And we've talked about how that's not true, obviously. But it is part of this thing where a lot of centrist Republicans specifically get hung up on the very literal definitions of things. All lives matter, Black lives matter. Like we've talked about, like abolish ICE. What are you talking about? This is typically where the centrist ends up going. The Democrats just will not get out of their own way because, abolish ICE. That's crazy. Defund the police. We need police. But then they completely excuse him being like, I'll bomb Oman. And it's just funny how the precision that type of thinking comes up with rally slogans. But when Mike Johnson supports Trump saying crazy shit like this, that is just like, oh, yeah. And I just think I find it weird because I guarantee you, literally, there are probably 1,000, at least hundreds of centrist conservatives listening right now. That's just continually who bobs into our algorithm. And I guarantee you they're fuming currently right now. And I want to reach them. I want to say something without coming off like a snotty asshole. How do you explain this? Voting for Jim Toon or voting for Mike Johnson or voting for whoever, that's just voting for Trump. It doesn't matter if they're packaged more professionally.
Right, exactly. And actually, this is a good time. We did get an email this week from a Republican listener.
Yes.
And I'll just read you part of what she wrote, because I think this really sums up a lot of more center-leaning Republicans right now. So she said a few things about the parties right now, that both parties are sloppy and need to do better. But she said, I'm a Republican. If you ever want a Republican to grill about an event, for example, how can you stand by Trump doing X? I'd happily explain my position. Just don't be surprised when you find out most Republicans are not cultists. So this is kind of exactly what we're talking about. And she summed it up well. And I think it's that's why kind of we and other people that are left of center or left wing have to be careful, where I don't think everybody that voted for Trump is in the Trump cult. I think that the Republican Party has become very cult-like. The elected officials, in the way that they put loyalty to Trump's whims above any sort of ideology or any conservative values that they previously held, that's very culty. But saying that the elites of the party are acting like Trump around a cult of personality, it's very different than us saying all Republicans that voted for Trump are in a cult, which, we would not say.
Of course.
What'd you think about that?
No, we should first. I thought, damn, we should respond to her email. But I think more importantly, yeah. I mean, well, it's exactly what I'm saying. I don't know why this happens, though. I don't know what it is. Is it Fox News? Is it right-wing media that has just done an excellent job making people think that this is what the whole left-wing side of the political spectrum thinks? Because I just don't understand where it's coming from. I don't understand why conservative people, for example, genuinely think that every liberal-leaning person would say, I don't give a crap about the economy. All I care about is trans athletes. That's what they actually think. We get the comments all the time. And I just think that's so crazy.
Right.
It's just that's so silly.
And advocating for completely open borders is another one that conservatives really think most liberals are pro-open borders. The most important policies to us are trans athletes getting the right to compete, and our borders should be completely open, which obviously that's not the center plank of any Democrat running for office, but
no,
they are really good at making it seem like that.
100%. And also making it seem like it's 100-0 all the time. And this is the thing that I really struggle with, because I think this actually gets at the crux of the issue, which is that, for example, gun control. Let's just pick a random liberal thing. Me and you both agree on gun control. We think that the current situation is untenable. Too many shootings, too many kids dying. We need to do something about these guns. Totally, we agree on that. If you polled 100 Democrats, they would all probably have some different version of what they think good gun control means. And I think if you asked any conservative, whether they're centrist, whether they're far right, they would think the vast majority of Democrats think we should ban all guns. And I just don't know where that comes from. And it's the same with the environment stuff. It's the same with the social stuff. And I wanted it lastly, and then we can go to actual news. But I just been thinking about it so much. One thing that Democrats get labeled a lot, and I think I'm going to do a Wednesday show on this eventually, is they're doing identity politics. Liberals just love identity politics, and that's all we talk about. But I actually think that Trump or Republicans talk about how much they hate trans rights more than Democrats talk about how much they love trans rights, or how much they hate
100%.
illegal immigrants versus how much they love illegal. Like any identity politic issue, I actually think 80% of the conversation is conservative bashing it and then Democrats defending the thought after the bash. What do you think
100%.
about that? Do you agree with that?
Totally. And those two examples of gun rights and trans rights fit perfectly with the impression that Republicans gave about Kamala, because she was pro Second Amendment, pro the most moderate gun reform you should have. There should be background checks or whatever, but she did not want to take away anyone's guns. And she really never talked about protecting trans rights. And she was even criticized by many pro-trans people on the left for never really talking about it. But yet Trump has these massive ads during the Super Bowl seen by hundreds of millions of people that say Kamala is for they, them, not you.
Yeah, Trump is for us.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to wonder, like, the Harris campaign is like, how do we even respond to that when, like, we haven't even been talking about it? And I think that's part of the reason somebody like Seth Moulton, Massachusetts, got hit so hard for suggesting that the Harris campaign and Democrats focus too much on niche issues like trans issues. Part of the reason he got such a blowback was like, did they focus on trans issues at all?
Yeah,
I never
exactly.
heard them talk about it.
100%. They would talk about it, whereas a conservative pundit would say, people are saying that you support sex changes for illegal immigrants in prison. Do you or do you not? And then Kamala would say something like, well, it depends. And they go, see? And that would be the whole soundbite. And last on this thing, and so one of the biggest sensitive, and you can tell I'm worked up because of all these comments. That's why I'm like litigating them on air. But centrist Republicans specifically are very offended when Trump gets called a fascist, because they then say, well, you're calling me a fascist because I voted for Trump. How come when they call Kamala Cadre Harris and a communist, they call everyone a communist? That's not a flattering remark. You know what I mean? Like, if we look at history for self-described communist leaders, Mao Zedong, Joseph Stalin, the current Kim family in North Korea, these are murderers who have killed tens of millions of people. And they sit on the opposite sides, but equally extreme. What Stalin is on one side, you could say Mussolini is on the other. And so I don't understand why when Trump gets called a fascist, they go, stop calling me a Hitler. What if I on the left said, stop calling me Mao Zedong? Because I voted for Kamala freaking Harris. And I think ultimately, I think that I appreciate moderate conservatives. I appreciate their openness. I love that they keep listening to the show. I love them as listeners. I really do. I just think that the difference is I'm going to play a clip right now, is that you're right. Mike Johnson may never say something crazy like I'm about to show, but he damn sure supports it. And I think that ultimately is the difference. And I think that's the thing that I want them to explain. Explain this. This is from this week.
I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I could do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very weakened nation right now.
I mean, what should we think about that? If Biden just randomly said, I can do whatever I want, I'm going to take Cuba, we would all be like, oh shit, the U.S. is going to invade Cuba.
Right.
What is that? What am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to say with this?
Yeah, and sometimes I wonder, like, during Trump's first term, I often used the word authoritarian to describe him, and I would say now he's much more authoritarian than his first term.
Definitely.
But I do think that is a less triggering word than fascist, because authoritarian can describe a wide range of politicians that aren't necessarily fascist dictators with ultimate power.
Well, it's definitely more technically correct. But I do think, though, well, the true thing is, right, is that it's not like you're a fascist or you're not a fascist. It's a spectrum. And he's the more nuanced way to explain it would be, oh, Trump has shown a lot more fascist tendencies this term by putting the military in the Capitol, by trying to, remove voting rights, by taking unilateral budgetary decisions, by using ICE as a way to literally round up American citizens. You could more ornately explain it, but I almost wonder, why do you have to? You could say, oh, well, those are heavy accusations. Again, I point to the right wing having no issue spending decades calling Barack Obama Hussein Obama. He's not an American. What's the difference? I don't know. To me, it's a level of sensitivity that I find very funny from a group that constantly says liberals are snowflakes.
Yeah, of course. And it's how much should we stumble over ourselves trying to get the language correct to not offend a group of people who genuinely get their rocks off by offending people like us.
And laughing. You
Right.
go no kings, which is more like a king and authoritarian is more close, right? They go, ha ha ha, Trump posted a photo of him in a crown. Liberal tears, ha ha ha. That's the whole premise. They're trolls. It's a very sensitive troll. That's who you're dealing with all the time. And
Right. Totally. Which is but that's what Trump is, right?
100%.
He is that. He is the most sensitive, fragile, bitchy toddler who also is constantly insulting everyone around him. He's the ultimate one.
100%. And I think if you want to be taken more seriously, and I think you could say this about the Democrats, Chuck Schumer is very an unserious politician, I think. I did Wednesday show being I can't stand the Democratic Party, basically, which is another lonely liberal fashion, 20-minute tirade about how the Democratic Party drives me nuts. And so I completely understand the embarrassment of seeing a politician that's on your team, quote unquote, absolutely humiliating himself in front of people. If you want to be taken serious, you have to condemn this shit, right? Anyone knowing about what Trump is doing to this country should say, I got to be vocal about it. And it doesn't mean that I have to hate Democrats. They're not actually at odds.
Totally. I just think but partly what's making it difficult for people on the right to criticize Trump is that so much is about loyalty to Trump. Trump is giving people the message that you're not a good conservative if you don't support Trump.
Exactly.
You're not a good Republican if you don't support Trump. And these are conservatives and Republicans who have held actual conservative values for 60 years. And so it feels weird. And I think subconsciously it pushes more people to just say, what the stuff I disagree with probably isn't that bad that he's doing. Because he's creating this confusion in the world that's getting down to the lowest level of voter that is suggesting that you're not a good conservative if you don't support everything he's doing.
Exactly. And I wanted to play this clip before we go to the best example of that, which is the Texas race, right? But this is a clip from Lauren Boebert on Piers Morgan this week. I don't know if you've seen this clip of her short-circuiting. Lauren Boebert, for those who don't know, is a rep. Let's take a look at Lauren answering a question.
So let me just do a quick Q&A with you. What is inflation?
Well, inflation is when the price of things is over is too expensive because of the federal government really squandering the tax dollars. So you have the Green New scam, hundreds of billions of dollars spent there to provide affordable energy, and it was not affordable. It was never free. It was never discounted.
Okay, yeah.
That money was taken from the American people
I don't wanna,
and forced into the system. It wasn't a free market
hang on.
decision.
That is so embarrassing. You're a member of Congress. And not only did she clearly not know what the word inflation means.
Right.
The Green New Deal, the piece of legislation sponsored by AOC and Bernie, never passed.
Right.
They keep talking about it like it passed. It wasn't a thing. And so, yes, I want to take conservatives seriously because I think this country is healthy if there's two respectable parties. And I currently find zero of them really respectable, right? The Democrats are at least a professional outfit that are terrible, but they're at least a professional outfit. The conservatives, you're trotting out this. What am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, you almost feel bad for her.
She's such an
'Cause
asshole. I can't feel bad.
Her brain is clearly trying to come up with something, and it's just not reaching her voice in the way she wants.
And then she just starts saying green new scam. That's inflation. What is inflation? Green new scam. Blah, 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 blah. That just, it encapsulates it so well. They've got nothing to say. And to what we're talking about now, we talked about last week, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton won the Republican primary runoff against John Cornyn. It's crazy because he's the first ever Texas Republican to not win his primary, ever, for Senate. It's crazy. It's a huge, huge thing. Now, obviously, Paxton was endorsed by Trump very late in the game, what's also crazy is Ken Paxton was literally impeached in 2024 for insider trading, which again, the amount of insider trading on the right that just gets a complete pass, and the rage against Nancy Pelosi, who also, I'm not saying doesn't deserve the rage. I'm just saying, why does that not register as bad when this guy does this? Anyway.
And he was impeached by the Texas State House of Representatives when the vote was something like 120-13. So this is in the most conservative state, their state legislature, which is more conservative than their national politicians, were still we got to impeach this guy.
This guy is absolutely a criminal.
Yeah, but then did the classic, I guess it's not that bad, we won't kick you out. So he didn't have to leave office. But it's funny, there are some theories out there that Trump doesn't want the Republicans to do well in the midterms because all of his behavior is basically terrible for Republicans in the midterms. Obviously starting a war.
Yeah, is it a nightmare?
In the midst of you reshaping the party to be America first above all else. But this one, he endorsed last minute an impeached attorney general who's filled with scandals. There's another instance of him commuting the sentence of his best friend who had pedophilia charges. This guy is filled with the worst. Ken Paxton I'm talking about. Filled with the worst scandals. And Cornyn is an incumbent of 24 years. So it seems pretty obvious that Cornyn would do better in the general election than Paxton would. But Trump's in his loyalty to me is the most important thing phase, so he went with Paxton. So I'm hoping that Tallarico can pull up the upset because I do think there's something specifically about Texas. It's really the state of conservatism.
Totally.
One of their two senators being a Democrat would just be a massive deal. They would not believe it.
It would almost certainly spell the end for Mr. Ted Cruz, who somehow has been ducking and weaving around every challenger and abandoning their state every time there's a natural disaster, which is absolutely crazy. Well, so Paxton has begun his attacks now on Tallarico, right? Who is, I'm almost certain he was endorsed by Bernie and the AOC crowd because Tallarico has been all small donations. Now, he's a former minister, a Presbyterian minister. And it's funny. So with their attacks this week, we've seen the only thing that they've really said, including Trump, is not just calling Tallarico low T. That's been he's low T Tallarico. That's the new little nickname. Then
T, by the way, T is testosterone for all our listeners that aren't terminally online.
Exactly. All our listeners who maybe went to university. Exactly. Tallarico is low T. Not just that, he's vegan. That's an attack, which he isn't a vegan, which is funny and that he's trans. So they said T, Tallarico, T is for trans, T is for low testosterone, T is for vegan. And it's just, I think, exactly shows you what I'm talking about. They're supposed to be a professional outfit, and all they can do is say this guy's a trans person, which he isn't, obviously. Not that there'd be a problem if he was, but he isn't. And it's just what do they even have? What's their whole point? What's the platform? They can't handle a minister who's not far left, because what are they going to say? He's not religious?
Right.
So they're going to have to call him a vegan.
Right. Tallarico kind of blew up on social media a few years ago, before he decided to run for any office. because he would, in like sermons, he would talk about how the Republican Party does not speak for Jesus Christ like they portray themselves to do. Like, but bottom line, like, this is an extremely Christian Texas guy. He's nothing like Graham Plattner. He's nothing like Zoran Mamdani, even though he's part of this new young wave of Democrats running at the same time. Like, he is very Texas. There's literally nothing feminine about him. Like, you could say you could say he's not on steroids. So, like, not being on steroids and
He has good
looking
skin.
like Sylvester. Yeah, he doesn't look like Sylvester Stallone currently. So, like, he's feminine. Like, there's nothing. Like, who's more feminine, Stephen Miller and JD Vance or Tallarico? The guys
draw?
hurling these insults are not exactly captains of the football team.
And it's like Trump is a fat old man who dodged the draft,
Right.
who's wearing adult diapers. This is your macho hero? Like, I mean, it's just like, give me a freaking break, dude. This is what we're talking about. He's a pussy. That's basically what they're trying to say. This guy's a huge pussy. That's all they have. That's what this is. Let's be real. They're finding roundabout ways to be like, yeah, I might be a criminal. Yeah, I have literally no platform, but that guy's a fucking bitch. That's what they're doing. That's what this has gone down to. I'm a fucking man. It's Alex Jones. It's worse than Alex Jones because Alex Jones is even on the out with these guys. They hate
Right.
Jones. Jones is more normal. This is crazy.
Right. And like Jesse Waters is throwing out these insults on his show too.
Dude.
Jesse Waters said he's a gay vegan.
Literally, he's 6 genders. That's what he is, a weird candidate. He's got 6 genders. That's what they keep saying. This is a freaking priest, effectively.
This is a guy that if he went to Europe, they would be like, get your conservative Christian values out of here.
Exactly. He's
You know what I mean?
conservative.
If he ran for office in like the Netherlands, they'd be like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
He's at the minimum as conservative as Mitt Romney, if not more conservative than Mitt Romney. And it's because he doesn't take money. They just can't. If he wins, their brain will break.
And he's young, and unlike Graham Plattner, didn't post a bunch of shit on Reddit when he was younger. So like they have nothing on him. I think the fact that they have nothing, they're just throwing out these insults they would throw out at literally any Democratic male. But it looks so much dumber because this guy happens to be like a stereotypical Christian Texas guy.
Without a doubt. I'm way more feminine than him. Like, these insults would apply way more to me.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? This is a literal Christian minister from Texas. This is who you're going to call, like, a gay vegan? That's what you're going with?
Right. One of a Republican in Florida that's a representative there said nobody should ever vote for Democratic men that can't name a random wide receiver from 30 years ago. Like saying Tallarico seems like a guy that doesn't follow football. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm sure Trump and Vance could really talk in depth about the NFL.
Oh yeah, they know ball. It's the biggest ridiculous. They're the. When did this happen? Like, when did this happen? That they think that, like, this is why, again,
you
want to be taken seriously.
We're in Mean Girls. This is Mean Girls.
You want to be taken like a serious party, and this is what you've got. You got a guy convicted of bribery 2 years ago, calling his competitor a gay vegan. That's it. No, but I think, to your point, I think this is good news for Tallarico. This is good. I think he can win.
Definitely.
I think he might have the best odds, like, so far, out of all the non-taking PAC money candidates. Like, I think he has better odds than Plattner does. Like, Susan Collins is very unpopular and in a more moderate state, but, like, Ken Paxton is a scumbag. Like, people really don't like Ken Paxton. Like, he's not popular in Texas.
Right. I think Plattner has a better chance as of now, but I think Tallarico has the best chance that a Democrat has had in Texas in decades.
And Beto O'Rourke only lost by 2%. Like, it wasn't like a huge blowout. Also, one thing I'll say last on him is I think if Tallarico wins and becomes a senator, he's a real threat for a president run in the long run. Like, this guy's a president material for sure.
I mean,
Like,
if he's able to win over like 10% of really observant Christians that typically would vote Republican, like, that is massive.
well, they can't play the religion card on him because he was a minister.
Right.
It's so great. And it just shows you that these are the type of guys that are going to take over. It's these non-pack.
They're not throwing the vegan accusations at Plattner, though.
No, he'll beat the
That's
shit
too
out
much.
of him.
That's too much of a stretch.
My name is Graham fucking Platter. I'm an oyster farmer and marine.
Nothing makes my blood boil more than
It's
a
the highest
Democrat.
T Democrat I've ever
Yeah,
encountered.
it's Democrats. Yeah, I love it. Very quick. Speaking of Republican rejects, Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene vacation together this week in Costa Rica. They're calling it the America First Pacific Summit Retreat, and they're hanging out on a boat. Bad look, I think, for these two. They fled to Costa Rica? What the hell's going on?
Reportedly, their spouses were there, which is a key detail.
Well, from Mr. Pinecone himself. Speaking of Gigi Blaster, who is definitely listening, loves this guy. He said, key difference was he talking about a male pine cone or a female pine cone because they actually have a very different shape. Which I really appreciated. Good point.
Could have major consequences.
It does. It certainly does. If you look at the difference, one has a lot more of a phallic symbology versus one.
We should just refer to him as Pinecone Massey.
Yeah, he's Pinecone Massey for sure.
Yeah, Green wrote, the Civil War in the Republican Party is successfully gutting the true America Firsters like myself, Thomas, and others. Interesting. Definitely shows you the divide. And I think, like, they're clearly outside of MAGA now, right?
Oh, they're gone.
Like, they're gone.
Yeah.
I think the most important figure to watch, sadly, is Tucker Carlson. Because he's basically saying the same thing as them. That, like, Trump.
Oh, yeah.
Trump is not America first. He said he was going to be. I'm actually America first. But Tucker is still playing nice with MAGA to an extent that Marjorie obviously is not and doesn't care about anymore.
Well, and also, it just really paints a picture of what a moderate Republican is now. I mean, I put out a little Instagram reel out this week, but, like, more seriously, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a moderate? Question mark. That's your moderate? She thinks Jews control the weather. She's introduced several pieces of legislation about Jewish weather conspiracy. This is it. Like, now, if you don't think pedophiles should be free, you're a moderate conservative.
Right. And this is
what's moderate about these guys, genuinely.
Right. And this is why we call Trump and his cabinet and elected Republicans cult-like, because they're totally separating ideology from loyalty to Trump. But
Exactly.
they're trying to make it seem like it's the same.
Exactly. And this is the thing that what I think has happened here, actually, that's such a good point, is that all of the things that we've been told what defines a conservative, which is small government, kind of an isolationist viewpoint, low taxes,
Faith and family values.
Faith, being a Christian ethno-state. These are things that I've heard. Those are all not Trump. And every single person who you voted for, who said that they thought those things, actually doesn't. That's the truth. That's just what it is. And I think it's, how, like, when the South used to be the Democratic Party and then they, like, flipped. I think this is going to happen. Like, I think there's going to be a reshuffling because I think there's a little bit of a lag because of the absolute chokehold Fox News has on most conservatives. But eventually they're just going to not, like, the smoke and mirrors act will fail, I think. And I could see a world where, like, there's a big abandonment away from the current conservative movement because this is a joke. There is no moderate conservative. What's a moderate conservative? Like, what does that mean? What is a moderate conservative? And I think, and I want to play this clip. So Do you know who what's his face? Kevin Roberts is? He's the head of the Heritage Foundation. He was on the news this week on C-SPAN 2. Not all heroes wear capes. I'm finding C-SPAN 2 clips. Not even the main C-SPAN. I'm pulling up. I'm finding C-SPAN 2 clips, which is even more crazy. I want to show you this. So he was there, Kevin Roberts talking about the Heritage Foundation. Take a look at this.
Did the president implement Project 2025 in this first year plus of his second term?
Well, thanks for that question, because since 1980, Heritage has been offering presidential transition projects, which we generally call Mandate for Leadership. What's known as Project 2025 was done on such a scale that we proposed 1,913 recommendations. 1,055 as we sit here have been implemented. The person who deserves credit for that is one Donald J. Trump. If we played a role through our policy scholarship, through message testing and helping to craft public opinion upstream of electoral politics, that's great. Heritage exists not to take credit, but to offer great ideas.
There we go. I mean, not only has Trump said he didn't even know who these guys were repeatedly, this is what it is. They've proposed 1,900 things. He's done 1,500 of them.
Right.
That's it. Do you see him beaming? And I thought the most telling part of that clip is he goes, we've been trying to get presidents to do this since the 80s. No one would take the bait, but Trump did, and we love him for it. That's what he says there.
Which is exactly what you're hearing former administration officials say about the war in Iran, is that Netanyahu and Israel have been trying to get U.S. presidents to invade Iran for 40 years. And Trump was the guy that Netanyahu finally convinced.
Because he's so fucking stupid. Such an idiot. I can't. I'm sorry. He's an idiot. Just an absolute clown show. I mean, what are we talking about here? I know I'm in a mood. I'm definitely in a mood this episode. Usually I try to be a little bit more careful. but like this, what are we talking about?
Right.
Like at one point, when does it, like, do you just go, what are we talking about here? What are we even talking about with these guys?
Right.
What is this? These guys are idiots. Look, did you see how happy that man looked? I'm going to pull him back up. He was beaming.
He was beaming like Trump when Trump's talking about invading Cuba.
I've never seen a happier man in my life. He's so happy. This is the happiest man. I'm going to play him again because I'm sorry for listeners that you can't see it. Look at him. He's so happy. Look at him. He couldn't be happier.
Well, because you rewind a year and a half, and the Democrats are talking about Project 2025, and it's super unpopular, and they're saying Trump's going to do it, and it's so unpopular that Trump himself is like, I have no idea what it is, I'm not going to do it, it's not me. Like, that guy back then was probably like, shit, this thing, damn it. Like,
we worked really hard.
We're enemy number one in the media and politics right now, so much that Trump's pretending he's never heard of us. And then you fast forward a year and a half, and this guy is like celebrating his birthday. Like, he's done literally everything we've told him to do.
I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who is behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. Cut to the guy going, I couldn't be happier with Trump. He did everything we asked. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. He's amazing. That's literally what just happened. It's like a curb clip. Dun, dun, dun. You just hear it.
This is how other world leaders think about Trump, too. Like, it's so funny that some of his supporters see him as such a strong leader because, like, he's so susceptible to flattery.
Yeah, exactly.
And therefore weak. Like, that makes you weak if you're susceptible to flattery. And so it's like him talking with Putin or Netanyahu, it's just like Trump doesn't stand a chance. Like, he is going to adopt whatever they want, whatever view they want him to adopt.
And so will the rest of the Republican politicians because they love Trump. It's not a cult if you actually love them.
Right.
That's I don't know. Speaking of people who may end up in jail, Pam Bondi testified this week about Epstein. It was kind of a nothing burger because she just defended everything she's been doing, basically, and everything she did as Attorney General. Now, she did throw Blanche under the bus a little bit. She did say, actually, Todd Blanche was the one in charge. Nothing will forgive Pam Bondi's handling of her last kind of big ceremony thing where she was so rude to the victims and just absolutely manic, I guess you could say, her last time we've seen her, but which ultimately led to her demise, effectively. But
yeah, answering a question about rape victims with how the Dow Jones is doing.
And they said, can you look at the victims in the eye and say you did everything you can? And she just ignored the question. Absolutely cold, just as cold as it gets. But yeah, so she's sticking to it.
Yeah,
I think she's going to be in a jumpsuit eventually. I don't think she's going to make it.
I hope. I mean, she's probably going to have a Fox News show until then.
Yeah.
Right? Or Newsmax. They all either come from there or go there.
Yeah. Yeah. She'll end up, saying that Democrats want to put stuff in the water that make the frogs gay. That'll be her eventually. Yeah. Democrats got a little bit of a couple of wins with the gerrymandering this week. Not that they gerrymandered themselves, but judges blocked a couple of Republican attempts to gerrymander. One in Alabama, one in South Carolina, I believe. But actually, no, South Carolina just straight up rejected it themselves. They didn't even have to have the court. So that's good. I mean, Polymarket gives Democrats 81% chance of flipping the House. I don't know what that means, but good that our judiciary system exists, even though it has major flaws.
Yeah, and one of those, the South Carolina measure that failed was somehow even worse than all these other pushes to basically disenfranchise black voters, because it wasn't just doing that, it was specifically targeting Jim Clyburn, South Carolina's only congressional Democrat. So, they have one Democrat seat and however many, 6 Republicans or whatever. The one Democrat who's been there forever. He's been there like 30
He's like 90
years.
years old, right?
He's 85. He's 85.
Boy.
And they literally redrew the map just to get rid of his district, basically, solely aimed at him. It's so evil, but that effort was shot down, basically.
Thank God. Trump being an authoritarian, like you said, had another piece to that argument this week. They have said that they want all current and future federal employees to sign NDAs, meaning that they're not allowed to disclose anything they work on. This is part of an effort of their attempts to try to get whistleblowers to not, I guess, blow the whistle. But that's terrifying. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, boy?
Just, it's more of the authoritarian loyalty pledge, but mixed with the paranoia that all the worst 20th century dictators all had, right? Paranoia that gets so strong that you eventually have to eliminate your ideological enemies, even when they're not posing any actual threat.
Exactly. So, okay, he's not Hitler, but he's Putin. Does it make you feel better? Also this week, the U.S. Justice Department, I'm laughing because it's just so horrible. The U.S. Justice Department is seeking the names, addresses, and banking information of Reddit and X users who have identified as critics of the government, specifically around deportation issues. Tell me again that this is normal. Tell me again that this is what people do. Give me a break.
It's so messed up. Going after using that stuff for any political view should obviously be illegal. It's so messed up. It's extra messed up that they're doing it for people that are just concerned about ICE detaining people without due process, like the most legitimate, basic concern. If you like the U.S. Constitution, the most basic concern. Just imagine a Democrat did this for people that are pro Second Amendment, and saying people that are radically pro Second Amendment are a danger to society because of how many guns they have. And so to protect everyone, we need to have their entire social media analyzed and put into our system where we can watch them every day, everything they post, because they're just a threat to society, right? Like
Unbelievable.
every conservative would say that's the most authoritarian thing we've ever heard.
Well, what's the classic example of why they are so religiously for the Second Amendment? Hitler took the guns, they always say. Yet, when Alex Preddy brings a gun to the protest, what did you expect? Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse.
Right.
Anyway, this week, the Trump administration let in another 10,000 South Africans, but only white ones. It's weird. The Trump administration is pretty against immigration into the United States, except for white nationals from South Africa. This is part of a broader resettlement that they've been doing. I think it's like almost 20,000 now that they've taken since Trump's second term. Estimated cost $100 million because they think white South Africans are under threat. Remember when he had the South African president in the White House and he brought this up and the guy was like, "What are you talking about? This isn't true. This is not happening." Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. Any thoughts on this bad boy?
It's just fitting into the increasingly common but alarming theme of white people are being persecuted by elites, by Jews, by everyone else.
Yep.
And so we need to, it's time for us white people to have pride. Everyone else gets to have their pride marches. It fits into that whole culture war bullshit that they love talking about.
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
Eric,
I mean, to be so against taking in any refugees and immigrants from any other country other than specifically a white ethnic group is the one
unbelievable. From Africa, from the country known for apartheid. There's no other way to put it. I'm not saying that these people are responsible for apartheid. I'm just saying there is a 40-year-old history. 50.
But what we were talking about earlier, which is Republicans try to portray liberals as being obsessed with culture and race and DEI and trans issues and gender. Are they? Isn't MAGA obsessed with all that stuff?
Exactly.
They're the ones obsessed with race.
They call Tallarico trans.
Right.
I don't even know if he has a view on trans rights. I couldn't tell you.
Right.
They're bringing them up. They're bringing up race. White. Why specify white nationals?
Right.
Why? And so it's weird and it's funny. So Pope Leo this week was in the news because he wrote this huge argument for regulation of AI. This really, really, diatribe, kind of arguing about the dangers of AI and what we need to do. And yeah, it's fascinating stuff, frankly. I mean, I do think there's a really, really interesting discourse around AI and philosophy and just all this stuff. I really, really enjoy it. The whole thing didn't mention Trump at all, yet it enraged the Trump administration. Of course it did. And I thought it was funny because Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, who I don't like because I deal with energy projects, said, "I didn't know that tech editorializing was part of the role of being Pope." He said that on Fox News. I didn't know AI was a huge deal for the Interior Secretary either. I just, again, why are they so defensive? And why do they hate the Pope so very much?
Yeah, they really hate the Pope. I mean, it was almost like them hating the last Pope was like training wheels for how much they hate this Pope. They've been building up, but they wanted to test the waters with the last one because they didn't want to lose all of their Catholic votes. I don't know what it is. I mean, Catholics do usually overall are pretty purple. They're pretty, in America, they usually vote 50-50. Some elections, they're slight Democrat, but they're pretty much a purple group as far as voting goes. So it's not you're not talking about Wiccans.
Yeah, 100%. We're not talking about
You're not talking right. Some group that's somehow associated with left-wing politics. The Pope literally says we should care about the environment, and they I'm surprised they haven't called him trans.
It's only a matter of time till they say we have to check his T levels.
Right.
Well, and so we got a comment this week, and by someone I think who means well and nothing wrong with them, just a comment. And it said, "I wish the party," referring to the Democrats, "allowed for more dissent in the form of social conservatism. It would definitely help save their waning Catholic popularity." And I find that a really interesting comment because historically, I think you could say that that's true, that the conservatives at least pretend to align themselves with more Catholic type things with the gay marriage stuff, with abortion, stuff like that. But I find it interesting that actively hating and ridiculing the Pope is more aggressive than being pro-gay rights, like less aggressive than being pro-gay rights. That's what I mean. I'm sorry. And it's funny because obviously we grew up in Massachusetts, and I grew up Catholic, so I went to church my whole life. And, our town is, I'd say, a purple town / like maybe even slightly red-leaning town in general, just because of the funny way the populace has grown. And so I would go to like a pretty conservative church as a kid, and I have never once, ever in hundreds and hundreds of masses heard one comment about abortion or gay rights, ever. I've never heard a priest mention it. I've never heard a Bible verse read about it. I've never even heard it brought up, ever. But I've heard a ton about loving the Pope. That is surely a thing that I heard a lot about. And I do think there's a conflation of Catholics and Catholicism and just like Baptists and Christians and maybe it's just talked about more in the South, and maybe just it's a Northeast thing, and maybe that's why it's never brought up. But it seems like a much smaller part of the religion than the Pope. So
Totally.
I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on this? I was just thinking about that a lot because I hear what he's saying. The dude who commented that, I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Catholic Church, they have gotten more liberal over time. I think,
and they are a highly flawed institute. I mean, we can't just act like they're this paradigm. I mean, they had years of pedophilia.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I'm not trying to.
But they did go from saying homosexuality is a sin and gay people are going to hell to saying God loves all of the children they created. We don't endorse homosexuality. We don't think it's the natural way to live. We're not for gay marriage, but there's nothing inherently wrong with being gay. You're not 100% going to hell. That shift that happened like 15-ish years ago. Yeah. So that's the shred of truth that obviously they're exaggerating to say the Catholic Church is a liberal, progressive organization, when in reality, they're still against gay marriage. The Pope isn't marrying gay couples like they do in progressive branches of religion, other religions.
Unitarian, Universalist, or something like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It also gets into the whole, I do think JFK being the first Catholic president and also being the most vocally separation of church and state president we've ever had is significant, right? Because
totally.
The opposite of that is Reagan and George W. Bush, who are both born-again evangelical Christians. George W. Bush says, he was an alcoholic, and in his 30s, he got sober and found Jesus. Jesus told him to run for president. And he's across the board, vehemently against all those social issues. So I do think there's a difference in general in terms of and this is obviously huge generality. There's tons of variation, but I do think there's more of a willingness for Catholics to separate
at least in the
religion
US.
From politics. Right. Whereas evangelical Christians who may technically, there may be more, evangelical Christians are a huge voting bloc in national elections. Yeah. And so they have obviously zero issue. Most of them think that we should be teaching the Bible in public schools. So they have absolutely no issues with that. So I think the difference is partially with the presidential history too.
So in terms of sheer numbers, evangelicals do make the largest Christian group in America. It's close. They're like 22 to 25. They're kind of hand in hand. But
and obviously in the Northeast, that's not true.
Well, and also to your point though about the gay marriage stuff, which is obviously right, but it's more of a response. That I guess that was my point. If you ask the Catholic Church, what do you think about abortion? They'll say, no, we don't like it. Or if you say, what do you think about gay marriage? They'll say, no. But they're not talking about it. They seem to be aware that they shouldn't bring it up. I don't think they like talking about it. It's a different thing where, and I feel like that's kind of, again, it falls in line with this kind of backbone of the conversation of conservative people asking, what do you think about this very specific social thing? And they're actually the ones revving the wheels of these fights. You could argue, I think the way our Democrats do that maybe as bad is with race attacks, like racism and stuff like that. They're very aggressive with racism labels and homophobia labels and, Zionist labels, stuff like that. But I don't think stuff like trans rights, I think that's way overblown, how much Democrats are talking about it for sure. Anyway, Trump also had a huge week in terms of this theme of putting his face on shit. I guess you can call it the Trump putting his face on shit block. Scott Besson, our boy, who we were talking about earlier, he is not my boy, but Mr. Besson.
I mean, we would have him on the show, but not.
We'd have anyone on. I would love to talk to Pete and Bobby. They're talking about a $250 bill for Trump this year. I think they've designed it. They're thinking about putting it up there. Who's to say it will actually come up? It's against the law to have a living president be on a bill, but the Bureau of Engraving and Printing is conducting the appropriate planning and due diligence in response to the proposed legislation. It looks like he'll do it. Leaked Penn Station renderings came out this week. Remember when Chuck Schumer was, doing whatever he does on his exercise bike with Republicans? That is going to have his name and seal all over the place. So he'll be stamped all over Penn Station. Thank you, Chucky.
And busiest train station in the country, by the way.
And a symbol of American transportation, just infrastructure in general. Penn Station is like an icon,
Mm-hmm.
And he's putting gold-leafed horses all over the National Mall this week because, of course, he is.
This was especially bad because the 4 bronze horses already exist. They already exist. The National Park Service awarded $5 million in a new contract to cover the 4 horses in gold. It's not, you might say,
them gold.
You might say $5 million, that's a lot for 4 fake horses. No, it's much more than that. That's the cost of the gold.
Yep. Oh, well, yeah, because they're covering it in gold.
Right. The updated gold blanket. That's
a very
$5 million.
Thick, heavier, and purer gold. That's the direct quote. A thick, heavy gold. How about making anything cheaper? Can one thing get cheaper? Please. Just one thing.
I'm surprised they haven't done a statue of Trump on a horse.
Well, they did Trump in Florida. Remember they were worshiping it a few weeks ago?
Oh, yeah.
They put Trump doing the Saddam Hussein thing. And they had this Bible study doing the ripple.
People are making pilgrimages to it.
Literally, I think that literally happened. I think that was the week you were sick. Did you see this, boy? It was.
Was he on a horse?
No, he's holding a big. Here, I'll show you. He's doing the fight thing,
of course,
because that very real assassination attempt has done a really good job.
Oh, yep. That looks about right.
That's the guy with it. That's how big it is. And he painted it gold.
Wow.
Isn't this
I
nuts?
love how every example of pro-Trump art takes about 30 pounds away from his stomach.
I know.
They're like, we can't paint him like he actually looks like, right? No, of course not.
Look, this is a great line from The New Yorker. Why Trump's spiritual advisor dedicated a golden statue to the president. Mark Burns, an evangelical pastor, explains that Trump supporters don't think of him as a godlike figure, even as the president posts pictures of himself as Jesus.
Wow.
Because let's not forget, that was the week after he had posted himself as a doctor, he said, in red robes, healing a dead Jon Stewart. Big news this week was the UFC fight that's happening at the White House. That is starting to get built. We can talk a little bit more about that, but I thought what's really interesting is that the Pentagon is recruiting hundreds of troops to be the spectators because they can't sell tickets to it. So I just think it's so funny that it's going to be 2 relatively poor people fighting in a cage in front of the White House, in front of an audience of troops. What? But what's also really funny is that the troops that are getting recruited aren't getting their tickets paid. They have to pay for the ticket. They're getting forced to buy tickets. So
yeah, but that's not
the
only important aspect of this story.
I know. I've saved it for an area that I thought you would find near to your heart. I intentionally left out the I let you have the kicker.
There is a thickness limit for the troops that will be in attendance.
To attend, you and your suspenders.
Specifically for a 5'9" man, and I'm just picking that number for no reason.
That could be anybody.
Average height, any guy,
typical dude.
Yeah, just picking that number totally randomly. This would mean their waist must be 37 inches or less.
Now, a certain member of this podcasting team recently purchased a 38 waistband, and so
let's just say I will be in attendance wearing suspenders.
You will be
at this event.
You'll have to be visiting, watching virtually, because you do not make the height weight. Dude, the memo circulating within the Air Force said, quote unquote, personnel must meet current waist height ratio and current physical fitness standards. That is so crazy. That is so crazy.
No fat generals. That's what Hegseth said a few months ago. What I find so funny, though, is that those standards, what they call physical fitness test requirements, right? You have to pass in my opinion, 2 easy tests to get into any of the major branches of the military. Obviously, we're not talking like special forces, but to maintain it, so we're talking about existing troops, you actually do not have to meet the requirements. I didn't know this.
I thought you did. Yeah.
Right. I thought they would give you like let's say while you're in the military, you gain 50 pounds. I thought they would be like, you have a year to lose. We're not going to kick you out right away, but like you have 6 months, some sort of thing to get. They actually don't kick you out. They just don't promote you. So people defending,
so you have to stay in the ranks.
Yeah, I was reading people's comments, like former military people arguing about this UFC thing, and they were like, it's not that bad because they're basically saying this is in line with our policy, where Hegseth goes on TV publicly and says we have strict requirements, no fat generals. He doesn't enforce it whatsoever. Basically, you just don't get promoted. You don't actually. Actually get removed from the military for not meeting the fitness requirements.
But it's even more shallow. So it's like almost like a North Korea style display of might, where you're like, let's put the hot ones up front.
Right. And also, it's Hegseth knowing that it's Hegseth saying no fat generals. Now he's saying no fat active duty people at the UFC event. But he's not doing anything to make the actual requirements stricter. Because if he does that, he'll lose hundreds of thousands of active duty troops, which would be a complete disaster for him. So he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, where he can say, meritocracy, you got to be in great shape, you got to be an alpha. But he's not enforcing any of that unless it's public. And this is so public that he's just saying, yeah, if you are a little bit overweight, don't come.
Do you think there's any chance more? How many tickets are going? Actually, I should ask this.
I think it's a couple. I think it's a few thousand total will be there. It's so like relatively small event.
So it'll mostly viewed by the U.S. military. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's crazy. It just shows you, though, how hard of a time they are getting people to come to these types of events. Obviously, the other piece of news is all these artists were dropping out of his Freedom concert. And I think that's actually important for people to know, because I definitely didn't realize this until I looked in, is that there's America 250, which is like the real celebration of the 250th anniversary of the U.S. But then there's the Freedom 250, which is just the MAGA Inc. PAC doing fundraising concerts. And so they had like a prayer breakfast the other day or whatever like that. That's with Freedom 250. Mm-hmm. This concert is with Freedom 250. And did you ever see his tweets? Obviously, I am sick in the head because I sometimes look at his tweets. I have to read this bad boy out loud. It's a long one, but it's a classic late night rant from Trump. which
Let's hear it.
is, I understand artists are getting, quote unquote, the yips having to do with their performance on Wednesday. So I am thinking about bringing the #1 attraction anywhere in the world, the man who gets much larger audiences than Elvis in his prime, and he does so without a guitar. The man who loves our country more than anyone else, and the man who some say is the greatest president in history, the GOAT, Donald J. Trump, to take the place of these highly paid third-rate artists and give a major speech, rallying the country forward like I have done ever since being president. 2 years ago, the United States was dead. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I don't want so-called artists that get paid way too much money who aren't happy. I only want to be surrounded by happy people, smart people, successful people, and people that know how to win. So by copy of this truth, I am ordering my representatives to look at the feasibility of doing an America is Back rally on Wednesday. And then he tweeted 3 more continuing, but I'll just read that. This is insane. I honestly almost prefer the genocide threats compared to this. This is almost crazier.
But it's classic Trump in that I guarantee you if we were to bring on a Trump supporter right now, they would go, guys, he's obviously kidding talking about himself like that. Right?
Exactly. Of course. Oh, yeah. Without
it's
a
like,
doubt.
of course, there's an element of humor and sarcasm in there that
Is there,
basically
though? Is there, though? Look, I don't know.
If you, well, I think Donald Trump is a severe narcissist, so I don't know. I think he actually thinks that about himself. But his supporters' favorable view of him
That's
is that
what I'm saying.
he's
They'll say that.
Yeah, he's cocky, but this is a character. He's doing a bit. He's making a joke. He obviously doesn't think he's the GOAT.
Why would they think that? Though?
It's funny at the end of that speech that you just gave that Trump put out. He mentioned like only the real patriots will stand by me. The only musical performers that have not pulled out and have confirmed after all of this that will still be there are Vanilla Ice and Flo Rida.
Damn it.
So those are the true American patriots.
I like my house. This is a bummer. Damn, Flo Rida.
Yeah. Some of the artists that dropped out include Martina McBride and Bret Michaels.
Oh.
Famous for being the singer of Poison and also having a Bachelor-like knockoff show on VH1 in 2008 that I watched every episode of.
What's it called? Rock of Love?
Rock.
I love that. What was I going to say? Last thing I wanted to play, which was a clip from Robert Kennedy, RFK Jr. It just made me laugh. A little nonsense of him holding a snake and getting bit by the snake. Did you see this?
Oh, yeah.
Look at this bad boy. What cracks me up about that video is hearing Cheryl like, no,
of
Bobby,
course.
no, because you just hear bump, bump, bump.
Right.
Like,
It's exact. It's so funny too. Like RFK and Larry are like polar opposites in every possible way. But it's like Larry says something awkward or socializes wrong, and Cheryl in the show is like, no. And then she goes home after recording an episode, and her husband is wrangling snakes, and she's like, no. It's the same thing.
And they go, what snakes are they? He goes, black snakes. He's a crocodile hunter himself, Steve Irwin. Red snakes, blue snakes, black snakes, green snakes. He's an idiot. Anyway. And you know what? I can say that as a snake bite survivor.
That's true.
I've been bitten by a viper. You got the call from me from the ER.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah, so I think I have a little bit of a leg to stand on. I've gotten the anti-venom, all right? I've been to there. I've been to the Pacific. But anyways, I think we have a...
It's time for Rick's Cultural Corner.
Thank you, Linda.
She's off camera.
Yeah. She sounds like she got into the booze again a little early. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's like a little late night for her, but you know.
So over the weekend, the Enhanced Games, also known as the Steroid Olympics, for the first time ever took place in Las Vegas. So probably some of our listeners have heard of it. I'm guessing a lot have not.
I've only loosely heard of it. So yeah. Let us know.
Yeah, so it was ran by two tech entrepreneurs. The basic idea was, let's run an Olympics-like competition. So take some of the major sports from the Olympics, weightlifting, swimming, that stuff. But let's allow them to take whatever performance-enhancing drugs they want. We will record all that information and then release a study over the course of the next few years. They'll publish a paper based and, hopefully this is, of course, the founders' promotion of it, but their angle is saying this will eventually produce like scientific insight into like how to take these drugs safely. Versus now everything obviously is done in the dark because it's
so the
prohibited in
athletes
all
are
these sports.
effectively lab rats for that.
Exactly.
That's the actual pitch. Yeah.
So like we're talking about like they can take as much testosterone or trenbolone or whatever major steroid. They can literally take as much as they want. Like
Gear?
there's
Can they
zero
take gear?
as much gear as they can possibly inject. Don Trump Jr. and Peter Thiel are two of the funders,
of course,
which is interesting.
Of course, naturally.
So obviously it's attracted a lot of tech bros. It's very much a tech bro hustle culture event where it's, a bunch of entrepreneurial CEOs who say, I wake up at 2 a.m., and I get more done before 4 a.m.
No one works harder than
ever
me.
would. Yeah, it's a bunch of those guys. But common topic of the pod, Brian Johnson, the man that's trying to live forever. He was a color commentator. So another goal was for them to try to see how many world records they could beat. So a lot of these people competing are former Olympians that obviously don't want to compete in the Olympics again because they're admitting to being on steroids.
And actually,
but like these are, a lot of them are like the Olympians have won medals before that are just slightly past their prime, like that are like 34 or 32 or something instead of 22 in a sport.
Yeah, they're legit athletes, I guess.
Yeah. So I thought one of the most interesting parts about it, so there was some famous competitors like Thor from Game of Thrones competed. He failed to beat his deadlift record. He tried to go for his deadlift record, which is over 1,100 pounds. But one interesting thing was only one world record was broken. Out of all of the events, the only world record that was broken was a 50-meter swimming dash that was broken by 0.07. And I thought that was really interesting that a league that was encouraging people to take as much performance and drugs as they possibly want couldn't create world records. Like they expected that there was going to be like 10 world records coming out of this. Now, obviously, there's an asterisk next to them. It's not like people are going to take these records.
Literally, they did
right.
it. Yeah.
But like in the Guinness Book of World Records for fastest sprinter, like it's this guy. There's just an asterisk. And no, like there was none other than that one, which raises the question, do you think that's because these drugs aren't as effective as everyone's made out to believe, or most Olympians are doping or on steroids? They're just hiding it and not getting caught. So the difference between doing it secretly and doing it openly doesn't really matter that much.
That's a great question. I mean, I also think part of it could be just age, right? Like most Olympians are at like perfect age when they break world records. And I guess one thing too that I don't know enough about, but like, did they compare just against world records, or did they compare against like what the gold was this year in the Olympics?
Right. That's a good question.
Because not every Olympian is breaking a world record, So
right.
I guess I could say, well, what if this guy wouldn't even have qualified, and now he would have got a silver, like that's a huge difference in terms of output and doesn't technically break you a world record. So like maybe world record is a bad reference point of if it makes a big difference.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I agree with that. Because it's like one of the swimmers that was like going viral on social media for how ripped he looked, because there's like there's a before from him at the Olympics and a current of him at the games, and he has like the biggest lats you've literally ever seen. Like he's but he's like 32, so the argument would be like to really know, you would have to say, what if he took the gear he's on now when he was 23
Exactly.
at the Olympics? Right.
Because he would never make the Olympics now at 32.
Right. Without
So the
gear.
fact
Yeah.
that he could even compete with the gear shows
Right.
you that. I guess that's the thing. It just, where is their baseline? It would have been interesting if they had done this beforehand, so we could have seen the before and after, like recently, pre-cycle, post-cycle, because that would have been more informative than how did they compare versus their athletic prime best.
Right, exactly. But it's tough because it's like you would need an Olympian that just got out of the Olympics that is still at their prime, but knows they never want to compete in the Olympics again, which is like a very small group.
Like if Katie Ledecky was like, I'm done. But maybe the takeaway is how, holy shit, can you believe even one world record was broken by someone who's not even in the Olympics? Like
Right.
steroid was so impressive that a person who could literally not even make the Olympics just turned into a world record holder because steroids are so strong.
Right. And like when
I'm tending to think that. Like that's
and when it comes to like weightlifting, like a lot of those competitions aren't tested like the Olympics. So like that matters less than like swimming and running and the stuff that's like the drug testing is
More
extremely
agile,
serious
too.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, more like quickness. When I think of steroids too, I think of like bulky, big,
Yeah.
Obviously-
And the interesting
that's
thing
not
was
true.
most of them, the athletes did not look overly ripped because they were still trying, like you can't, like there's a reason that swimmers don't look like bodybuilders or weightlifters. you know?
Exactly.
Like,
Well, and also like Lance Armstrong, he was on that specific type that made him have like higher
EPO,
cardio.
yeah, which is the
Yeah.
ultimate like cardio drug.
So
like the blood
that
doping.
one seems like maybe more
For sure. And they were
important.
doing that. They did mention that. Like they were doing that. But the thing is, I don't know if they had any long distance events, which is like ultimately, like they didn't
what
have
that
any,
would help.
200-mile biking event, obviously.
Or like even like a 10-mile run where
Right.
that could really swing the cards. I feel like if anything to me, it shows that it's crazy that people who are past their prime could then go back to Olympic level because steroids are so strong.
Right.
Like that. That's
Right.
how I feel. I don't know. What did you think? Did you think that too? I mean, like
I think that's part of it, but I lean more towards a lot of the people in the Olympics are getting away with
that's
steroids.
probably
Now,
true too.
obviously, they're on lower doses and less drugs than a complete free-for-all that tells you to take drugs. Like it's, I just know, obviously, I follow baseball, and baseball is like the ultimate sport of history with drug testing, so much so that the federal government got involved
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's more that most Olympians are getting away with something. I think if the Olympics were actually totally clean, you would have seen these guys be breaking more records. But the reality is it's like slightly past their prime on a ton of steroids against in their prime on some amount of steroids that they have to be able to hide in testing. I think
And
that's
I don't
the
think
comparison.
a world record is broken every race. Every new year, a new person breaks the
Right.
world. So I don't. Well, maybe I don't know enough about the Olympics to be fair, but I don't think it's a direct correlation where every year it just keeps going. I feel like it spikes. Like Michael Phelps breaks a ton, and then slowly his records go one by one by one, or like Katie Ledecky breaks a ton, and then they tumble one by one. It's interesting though. I mean, it also though I think partly shows the fact of like why Brian Johnson's I'll never die metrics I think I'm suspicious of is that like you can like on paper have like an unbelievable body and still not compete well. Like it's not 1-to-1 like just pure physical like stuff too. Like there's a muscle memory thing. It's like and there's also like the most ripped guy isn't the best at the NFL. Every
Totally.
year in the NFL draft, there's a dude who breaks the 40 like is the fastest 40-yard dash time for his weight class, and people are like, holy shit, if he can become like a good running back, he'll be unstoppable. He's 250 pounds and he ran a 4.4. And like
Right.
sometimes they pay off and they're like Saquon Barkley, but then sometimes they don't, you know what I mean? And they just suck and they're just wicked athletic. Like just because you're like literally have like all these raw materials doesn't actually always translate to like being really good at sports.
Right, totally.
You know what I mean?
Especially when you're talking about adding muscle in a sport where cardio is really important because it's
Exactly.
just it's going to stress your lungs way more.
And like technique and stuff and like vision and shit like that. Like, obviously team sports is a different beast, but you know what I mean? Like every
think,
year
like,
they're like, oh, this guy would be a world Olympian, but like, would he?
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Overall, like, I feel the same way about it as I do about Brian Johnson, which is like, it's very cringeworthy. And like a lot of the culture around it is like cringe hustle culture. I wake up at 2 a.m., blah, blah, blah. But like, it's fascinating. It should be legal for like adults that understand what they're doing to do. It's not like some super dangerous thing. And like, it will give us some insight into like these drugs. And like,
oh yeah, for sure.
You know,
I'm pro it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let it ride. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
definitely entertained by it, like I am Brian Johnson.
Yeah,
even
for
though
sure.
he's
And
a
I
freak.
also think it sucks because it's perfect conspiracy fodder, like supplements and stuff like that, because they're hard to understand. Everybody's different. Like pharmaceuticals are inherently not really interacting with them, so that like feeds into that conspiracy. You know, like I just feel like, isn't that what snake oil was supposed to be? Like, we found an oil and it can make you grow your hair back or whatever. And like, isn't this just exactly in that vein to an extent? But it doesn't mean that there isn't some truth that, you know, taking whatever can help people. So it's just above my pay grade. And
Yeah.
it does suck. Well, one of the things I was just whining to my mom about the other day was like how like doctors vary so much per doctor and like what their expertise is in and like what they know about, and their like prejudices against random things like trickle down. So it's just really tough to know like how full of shit any of this stuff is.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
I think
like it's so tough.
yeah, like I do think unfortunately there are a lot of like young guys getting into like peptides are really in right now.
Oh my god, peptides are so hot right now.
And obviously like Ozempic, it is a peptide, but there's also pro muscle, pro weight gain peptides. Like there's everything.
Peptides.
Yeah. So I do think it's interesting that a lot of the same types of people that are like won't take the COVID vaccine will take peptides that aren't approved by the FDA.
Exactly.
There's a
They
lot
hate
of
the FDA.
overlap between like skeptical of normal medicine, but totally open-minded to powerful new drugs that haven't been studied yet.
Or like a lion's mane mushroom. Like they're convinced that'll do it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But my argument always is, if lion's mane worked, wouldn't it be sold by Pfizer? Like,
Right.
like if you think these are money-hungry, greedy pigs that have all the treatments, then wouldn't they have patented it, pushed it
Right.
into a pill, and then sold it? I don't know. Two things don't seem to be true. Anyway, that's interesting, though. We need to keep a running tab on Brian Johnson because he keeps getting more and more attention over time. Like, he's getting more popular.
100%. And he's putting his girlfriend through the protocol now.
Well, she was in the news for her vaginal biome.
Yeah.
He said no one has a better biome than her. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever talk about a way to end your relationship. Tell your girlfriend, hey, I want to talk about your vaginal biome. It's a great way to get out of something. That could be a Curb episode. Like, he wants to break up with someone and he says, I'm really into health and I'm into vaginal biomes.
Yeah.
And on that note,
he's getting more and more famous, but I'm here for it.
Well, and his son eventually will no longer be like a blood boy and be like a blood man. And like, he'll end up having his own
Right.
personality. You know?
He's got to be 21 by now.
Yeah, eventually he'll be a 40-year-old guy. Well, they'll be living forever, apparently, in their tubes. Well, Sam Altman, the guy who invented the head of ChatGPT, he last week said he has officially agreed to upload his consciousness into the AI or whatever. So
Wow.
he's going full-blown digital, which I've always said I want to be a cyborg. Give me a robotic leg. I'm pro. I'll be a Terminator. Anyway, we'll talk later. You know, me and you are Brian Johnson curious, so we're not great. We have one eye open on the science. What's it called? Blue field or
Yeah,
whatever.
we may lose a couple supporters by our admiration for him.
Yeah, we like him. We don't like him, the guy, but you may see us with a protocol.
A blueprint.
The blueprint. That's it. Not the blue field. Blueprint. All right, man. I'll talk to you later. We went a big one, but I thought it was good. I'm in
I'll
the
talk to you
shadow. I
later.
look like Two-Face here. All right, I'll talk to you later. See ya.
And that's our show, folks. Thank you so much for listening today. If you like the show, like I said off the top, make sure you give it a review / like and subscribe and all that stuff. Remember, our email is media@thelonelyliberal.com. And, reach out. Let me know what you think. What you think about all this stuff. We'll be back on Wednesday with our normal programming. And until then, take it easy. I'll talk to you later. Bye.